I'm Mark Steinberg, a retired attorney and a former official in the State and Justice Departments during the Clinton administration. I'm also a blogger on the Huffington Post. My point today is less a point than a question, and it's who is stupider, the people who fly over or the people who are flown over? The other night at a dinner party given by an old lefty friend of mine, I listened as a group of people who could recite from memory every Democrat they'd ever voted for express their shock, chagrin, and chest pain over how the couple 100 million people who were not them could be so terribly, terribly wrong. They sneered at the fact that adults who were permitted to vote could possibly believe that global warming is caused by people forgetting to close their ovens. They doubled over laughing at the notion that what gay people really need to get their heads on straight is quality time with pole dancers. And they literally tossed their cookies, I remind you that this was a dinner party, over the proposition that Barack Obama isn't a real citizen because Hawaii isn't a real state. The underlying assumption seemed to be that if these ignoramuses who embrace these ideas would spend a week in Santa Monica or New Haven, the country would get back on track. To a great extent, I share these views. I watch what passes for discourse on Fox News, and am absolutely astonished by the number of knees that seem to jerk when words like socialist or phrases like tax and spend are thrown into the maw. These people on both sides of the camera are not really thinking, I think. But what I and my like-minded friends tend to ignore is that we really do have to get through to these folks, and that we're stupid, really, really stupid, if we think that railing at them or about them is going to accomplish that. The battle we've joined shouldn't be about who's the louder shouter. It should be about who's the better listener. And that's my point. You can find more of this kind of pontification at huffingtonpost.com, Mark-Steinberg.
You know, I'm really split on Mark's point there. I'm 50-50 on it because, of course, I want people to talk together. And I think that if you got the guys on the right-wing side who are frustrated with their government, and guys on the left-wing side who are also frustrated with their government to talk to one another, that you would get a lot of agreement. But I think he's wrong that you cannot accomplish things by shouting loudly. Now, I'm biased because I'm a loud shouter, okay? But think about it. Rush Limbaugh's of the world and Fox News Channel have been shouting for all this time. And what happened? They drowned everybody else out. Right. They wound up convincing independents that didn't know that much about the facts, and their side is winning. So is Mark right or wrong? Frank, let's start with you.
Well, I agree that we need more civil discourse, but geez, this guy seems like a douchebag. No, I'm kidding. I don't mean that. I don't mean that at all. But I think you know, with Obama's whole thing is civility and reaching out to other people and trying to make the other side of the aisle see your point of view. Obama is all about that, and that's been a frustration, I think, for a lot of people, that he's trying to reach out to people on the other side of the aisle who don't want to hear what he's saying and who are only going to make things worse by the fact that he is reaching out to them. So at this particular point in history, I don't know if I think we need more people standing up for what they believe in and being willing to shout about it if necessary.
Keith, shout or no shout?
Well, I think it's a combination of the two. I just remember when Barney Frank tore like a new a-hole of like somebody who, I can't remember what she was talking about. Yeah, during the healthcare. Yeah. And I'm from Massachusetts, so I can say this. He went masshole on this person at this event, and it really, I thought, like right then it was going to be a rise of massholes who would just tell it like it is, like I don't know what planet. I think he was like, I don't know what planet you're on or whatever, you know. It was just like, and I was like, thank goodness someone's saying that. And there need to be more folks who do that. But I can't possibly imagine Obama will start doing that. But I do think that he is gonna, once this election goes by and he's not worried about getting reelected anymore, he's gonna drop the hammer and just be like,
no way. Totally disagree with that. It is not in his nature. He doesn't have a hammer.
But not in the way that we want to see him do it. He's going to be Mr. Cool the whole time, but he's got nothing to lose at that point. And it's
Keith, I got to tell you, man, I've been following politics my whole life, and everybody always talks about the second term. Oh, in the second term, then they'll really do what's it. The only guy who in the second term kept doing what he was doing, and even more so, was Bush. Because he was like, oh, great, you guys made the mistake of giving me a second term.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
Well,
I'm shocked he didn't attack Iran while he was like, that dude had a hammer.
all right. Yeah. But all right. So that was the last president. So maybe it's a new thing now. Maybe
He's copied so many other things Bush has done. Maybe it's possible.
Exactly. I just want to say this, that it is about a combination. Before the Occupy protests, there was the WTO up in Seattle, like years back.
That's right, when the turtle outfits and everything, yeah.
And it was a huge protest, but it was the people that broke a few windows that really kind of shut that thing down. And there always needs to be a few people who break a few windows.
Now, I have to denounce and reject that officially. Having said that, Professor Kyle, I read a really interesting look back at the history of the civil rights movement. And so Martin Luther King is doing the, obviously peaceful protests, et cetera. It's having a huge effect. But at the same time, Lyndon Johnson and some of the Democrats start to get scared because there's rioting in the streets, right? And so people like Malcolm X start pushing in a direction that made people really uncomfortable. Then they went, okay, I'll take MLK, right? We'll do the Civil Rights Act, and everybody just... So does Keith have an interesting point?
Yes, I think he does. I think that it is important to have both. But what we need is balance. So right now, if you take a look at AM radio or Fox, there is no balance. What we have is this shouting, and what you need is maybe some of that. But on the other side, where you have civil discourse, it requires that you have an educated populace. And that's the problem. We don't have an educated populace. Increasingly, less and less, or fewer and fewer of our young people are learning civics in school, learning social studies. So these shouters on Fox and AM radio, they're very effective because they're not challenged.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Now, look, Frank, I'm on the side of, I don't believe unilateral disarmament. I'm actually not a liberal. I'm a progressive. I think there's a difference. But I remember when there was talk about unilateral disarmament with the Soviet Union, I was like, are you kidding me? No way, no way. Right? So now I disagreed with other things that Reagan did, et cetera, right? But so I think if they're shouting and we're saying, oh, let me listen. No, I got no interest in listening to their shouting. I'm coming over the top of you.
I think a lot of the mistake that I think progressive and liberal people have made over the years of the AM shouting is we've kind of reacted to them like Margaret Dumont, who was the character in the Marx Brothers movies, who was always outraged by what Groucho, oh, Mr. Captain Smalltig, we would get very huffy about how outrageous Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh are, and I think it's more effective for us to come back with our more intelligent version, and it can be as high a decibel as we want, but a more intelligent rebuke to what they're saying, but to say it just as forcefully and just as much entertainment value too.
Yeah, that's what the Daily Show is. That's what the Daily Show is. Really, that's more. What's that statistic that more young people get their news from the Daily Show than the regular news channels? That's huge, and also it really comes down to media literacy, and it's something that's taught in different countries, but it's not taught here. Kids need to know, adults need to know, what the message is, what the message behind it is, who's funding certain things. If they're aware that, basically talk radio is just there to make people mad. That's it. That's it.
Media literacy of Fox News would be illiteracy, wouldn't it?
No, but to let people know, hey, what is it? Because when they see it on TV or they hear it on the radio, you get the sense that people think, well, then it must be true.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just to let them know, it ain't necessarily so. It's just a windbag, whether it's me or whether it's Rush Limbaugh stating their opinions. But one last thing on this. Look, on the other hand, when you bring together Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street, they've done it in Richmond, they've done it in Memphis, people always come away like, oh my God, I can't believe how much we agree. Because, my point on this is, you know, we've got big money that the left is concerned about, the big businesses, corporations, unlimited spending in our campaigns, et cetera. Then you got big government that the right wing is concerned about. The problem is when you bring them together, right? And you got big money buying big government, and it leads to big corruption, and we all hate that.
Right.
And so I feel like if we can get beyond those guys, you know, shout back, because you don't want to unilaterally disarm, but then get people in a room without that filter, without the media stuff, and have them talk. I think they're going to agree, you know, so much more than they realize.
Yeah.
We're all agreed that's the last point.